All right, hello wine drinking people. Time for more of what I've had to drink yesterday. And our friend from Biggio Hamina, Todd Hamina, was in to showcase some of his new releases. These 2010s, outstanding. Todd has been around the block a few times in the Oregon wine industry. Rather, he moved out there and hit the lottery on his very first day in the Willamette. He met his wife. He found a place to stay and a job. So, hey, Todd, man, it's meant to be your move out to Oregon. And he was in Colorado at that time. He managed bike shops. He was working for his brother just to pass the time. And he wanted to be a Spanish professor, but he said as a white guy, he didn't think he would make it in that profession as a gringo. Anyways, it's a good thing that he did land in Oregon and met all the right people. Gary Andrus was one of his mentors there at Archery Summit. He worked for a lot of very smart peoples, and seems like some of this intelligence seems to have rubbed off on him. He's found some great vineyards to work with. Todd doesn't own any vines. He buys all of his fruit, but he does have a say in how the vineyard is managed, how his fruit is dealt with throughout the course of the year, which is one of the most important things when you're dealing with a Pinot Noir varietal in a place like Oregon, or any place where Pinot Noir can make a high-quality wine, because it's a very finicky varietal. There's 100 things that you do throughout the course of the year in the vineyard that determines how that fruit is going to end up in a vintage like 2009, which was a warmer year, maybe a little easier. 2011, a very cold year. Very difficult year in the Willamette. It's nice to see that, Todd has got... he says, look, 2011, I just made one wine. I made Willamette. I didn't make any of these single vineyard wines. I charged a lower price for them because he didn't feel like, the wine was in the bottle. There's not a lot of people that are willing to make that compromise today, especially at the 2,000 case level. This guy makes a tiny amount of wine. Well, anyways, we started out with a new wine for him, a Riesling from the Amity Vineyard in Eola Amity Hills. And, this is a great vineyard site. Eola Amity Hills, considered like, the Grand Cru area of the Willamette Valley. And this Riesling's got just a bit of residual sugar in it. And Riesling needs that to balance out the acidity in it. And this wine's got some peach and pear kind of fruit to it. Notes of orange blossoms. And it's the only one that sees a filter at the winery because, as Todd mentioned, he didn't like to clean filters. One of the things I found interesting that he said was, the only thing you need to be a good winemaker is you need to be able to stay up late at night and clean bathrooms. And I said, okay, that's an interesting way to put, that's all you need to know how to do to be a good winemaker. But hey, during the harvest, you have to stay up late at night. And if you don't have a clean winery, if everything in there isn't cleaned, your wine's not going to be clean. So, in some regard, I guess, that's one of the two of the most important traits to making great wine, cleanliness. Anyways, the Riesling, fairly clean, and, it's got a nice zesty finish, though, some nice forward fruit from that residual sugar, green apple and peach, and then at the end leaves the tongue salivating for food, which is what we love about Riesling, and it went great with a salmon carpaccio with that fennel and citrus salad, really popped with the Riesling. The Pinot Grigio from Coors Mark was up next. Let me just mention first, the Riesling's $13.50. The Pinot Grigio is $15. And this wine sees quite a bit of skin contact. Kind of funky on the nose at first. I was like, what the hell? I put my nose in the glass and I smelled it. I was like, I don't know what to think. It smelled like it might have been bad. It had a very wild herb, kind of mustard seed-like aroma to the green melon and pear fruit. Really exotic, very unique. But, kind of as the night went on, it smelled bad at first, but I kept going back to it and going, that smells so different and so unique. The bad turned into good. It was amazing. And he uses a technique here where he floats some fruit, something that they do in Alsace. Producers like Domaine Weinbach use this. And he gets a year and a half of contact with the fruit, floating the fruit in the wine. Anyways, it really makes this wine interesting and unique. And it still has lovely freshness to it. And it's got a little bitter note to the finish, but nice fruit and that mustard kind of herbal note shining through here. Lots of flavor. Very good little unique Pinot Grigio for $15. I'll also mention that the entry-level wines are all in screw cap here. And they do have a fun kind of Dr. Seuss packaging as well. Kind of stands out on the shelf. The 2011 Willamette Pinot, as I mentioned, no single vineyard wines made here. It was a tough year. And these wines that he did make really over-deliver for the money. This is Yamhill Carlton and Eola Amity fruit. This wine's got a lovely spice to the nose. Pretty minty note to the light red berry fruit. light, but not light in nuance. And, that's one thing about Pinot. Todd was saying we don't get a lot of, color in our wine because, if you ferment the wine at a certain temperature, 93 degrees, the alcohol is going to cause, alcohol as a solvent is going to cause the wine to be very dark in color. He goes, you know what? Color doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't make the wine better. It just makes the critics like it more because it's darker. But, his wines are very light, but they are not light in aroma and in complexity, just light in color. Don't be fooled by that light in color here. This 2011 had a lovely zest and spice to the palate as well, that green minty nuance lasting through the finish. Lovely cranberry and raspberry fruit here. Really nice balance, and an excellent little Pinot at $22.50 if you like the more savory style of Pinot Noir. 2009 vintage. This was a warmer year, and you really note it in the nose here. It's got more fruit to it, kind of black raspberry, this lovely dark and rich character to the palate as well on the fruit, exotic brown spices, earthy notes, the potpourri of dried flowers here, a good amount of juicy red and blackberry fruit shown on the tongue with smooth, silky tannins and a lovely amount of spice on the finisher with this wine. Really most excellent juice. I gave all these wines a notch up in score the next day because they were all better the next day. And a lot of people say Pinot Noir, don't decanter it because it's going to lose its nuance and its nose. Well, all of his wines, and like other great wines, on the second day were even better. A sign that you want to keep these wines in your cellar, especially these last two, the 2010s. These are in a little more serious package. The price is a little higher. And the Zenith Vineyard from Eola Amity was up first. And this is a great vintage in the Willamette. Todd said this is hands down his best vintage ever. And the difference between the Caroline and this wine is that the Caroline's 100% whole cluster, which means they put the whole clusters in there when they crush it, and the seeds and the stems add this spice and nuance to the wine. And some of the top wineries in Burgundy do 100% whole cluster, DRC, Loire, and this gives this wine a nice exotic spice. And, the wines were pretty similar, other than the fact that they make 2 barrels of the Caroline, so the price is accordingly a little bit higher because the amount is so much less than they make. These wines very similar on the nose, lovely floral notes, exotic spices, and nice fruit in these wines too, but a little bit austere at the moment. Like I said, the second day these wines started to open up and really show their stuff, and both of these wines most excellent, I would have to say. I give the edge out to the Caroline because it was a little more concentrated, a little more rich, but both cut from the same cloth. I don't think you're going to be disappointed at the Zenith at $43.50. And the Caroline at $75, definitely a step up, but both most excellent juice. That's what we had to drink with Todd Hamina. I'm your host, Andrew Lamposoni, signing off for the Wine Watch, saying remember, always drink the good stuff first.